I'm back now with this Kursk Submarine Device 2, and it's going to be time to do some texturing. We'll see how far we can get in this video itself. There's a lot to cover, actually. I've got two materials. I've got a base material, and all of the buttons and knobs and screws have been joined together. All right, so I can easily hide them and bring them back. I do not need that anymore. And that's more for working in Substance Painter than it is for Blender. All right, so what we need to do before we export this is we need to create a UV map. And I'm not going to do anything overly complicated, but I have done a couple of things. So first of all, let's go over to the UV editing. And for this piece, I'm going to UV unwrap it separate from the buttons and the knobs. So I've selected all of this, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to press U, cube projection. I'm going to leave the defaults, and then I'm going to press N to open up UV Pack Master 3 and Pack, or you could just use Blender Pack. And I'm going to do that and to close that. So that has unwrapped this, and it's nice and large because this is a pretty prominent piece and we're going to need that. So that's fine there. Now I'm going to come over to the buttons, and I want you to have a look at the buttons. I'll come back to layout here, and I have marked some seams. Now nothing complicated or anything. What I've done is I selected this face. First of all, by the way, I applied any bevels if there were any mirrors, that kind of thing. And I've decided that I'm going to do this all together, and we'll see how it goes. So as far as seams go, I've just marked this top face for all of these. For the toggle switches, again, I just zoomed in, I selected, and I went Control E, mark seam, and I did that for these, and I also did that for here. I selected this top face for all of these. That is going to help me in UV unwrapping, and then inevitably in Substance Painter. I'll show you how. But for the buttons over here, what I did is I came down to the last sort of beveled edge here on each button, and I also did one down here. And that's going to help me because I want to put a material on here that's going to come down to that area there. All right, so we're going to unwrap, and these I didn't do anything special at all. So let's come over back to my buttons. Let's go to the screws and select all of the screw parts and Control L. And I'm just going to press U, unwrap. And I'm going to get these nice circles. So I'm going to scale them down and move them out of the way. So I want all of that so I can see that's out of the way. Okay. Now I'm going to come, let's do these buttons first. Let's select this and this and this and this. I call them buttons, the knobs. Select those, U, unwrap, scale them down, pull them over to there. I'm going to select the top face here. Now if I go Control L, it'll only get that, which is useful in some ways for selecting, but I'm going to select there, Control L, U, unwrap. Now these ones are important because I want a good texture on them, and you will see these four circles got separated out, and those are the tops, and that's going to allow me to put a material in Substance Painter separately. So I'm going to box select those, make sure I got them. So I'm going to select all of that now and just scale it down a bit. Just leave it there and make sure I'm getting everything. Let's come over here and let's get the bases of these, 3 of them. Control L, U, unwrap. And I'm fine with the way these are unwrapping. Let's put those over to the side. And let's have a look at these ones. Select the end and select something else. Control L, U, unwrap, and let's move them and have a look. Once again, I get the 3 circles. Let's move those, scale them up. Hopefully there's enough distance, I don't have to worry. Let's take those and Control L and S to scale them down a bit. Just leave them there. So I've done those. And let's come over here. You unwrap. Again, I'm getting the tops. Scale them down. Maybe a little bit bigger. Okay, and now we're going to do these buttons. And we'll see the best way to do these. Select that. I'm going to have to get another piece of it. Control L. Let's see, if I just U and unwrap, that's not bad actually. They're nice and square. Let's just move those off and scale them down. Alright, so I mean, I only have so much UV space, and so I have to make some decisions here. I do want this stuff relatively large. Let's see that. That. I could probably take all of this and scale it down a little bit. Make a little bit more room for myself. Alright, so let's start putting these things in. What's that? Okay, the screws. I really want these things here to be nice and prominent, but they don't have to be that big. So let's take those and see if we can start fitting these in somewhere. Take these things, put them in, take these. Maybe I could put them there. And let's see what these are. Okay, those things. That's just going to take a metal material. It's not going to be anything too crazy, so maybe I could put those in there. Okay. What are these? Okay, those are the screws themselves. Let's see if we can rotate them 90 and stick them in there. And I'll see if I can make stuff bigger in a while. Those are those. Let's scale them down a bit. And let's see if we rotate, if we can get those in there. And maybe these we can make a little bit bigger. Okay, we got our buttons. I think I can make them smaller. Okay, what's this? Actually, what are those? Okay, those are the toggles themselves. And that's those ones. And this, where do those come from? That's just the ends there of the toggle switches, which are there. Okay. So those don't have to be that big. I could probably make them smaller, similar to these ones. Let's see if they could go in there. And then we can squish things down even more. Those don't have to be too big either. Okay, bring all this stuff down. And that is those guys there. Okay, let's see. Okay, they certainly don't need to be that big. That's just going to take a black sort of shiny material. And that is their tops, which I do need separate, but let's see if those can go in there. And then you can come back and make things a little bit bigger where you can. Okay, we've got these. Let's rotate 90. Let's take these and make them a little smaller. Okay. At this point, you can just go through, like I said, and try to make things a little bit bigger, if at all possible. Alright, you could do that for a while anyhow. But we could see how this goes. Alright, so I've got the buttons and knobs, and I've got that. Okay, let's go with that. Let's save, let's export that to Substance Painter and get started. Here's device 2 in Substance Painter, and you can see I've got the base and I've got the buttons. Alright, I'm going to bake the mesh maps. I'll do that at 2K and uncheck ID. Alright, now that the maps are baked, have a look at this. See if you see any obvious errors. I don't. So hopefully nothing is overlapping and everything is okay. Alright, we're going to start with the base, so make sure you're on the base and get rid of that. I'm going to add a fill layer in that. I think I'll leave everything, but I will change the base color, and that may need to be refined a few times as I search for the color that I want. This kind of a yellowish brown. I'll start with that. Okay, this I'm going to call base. I'm going to right click and choose filter, properties, filter, scroll down to this matte finish. I've done this before. That'll give that roughness variation on it. I'll just turn down some of these just a little bit. I'm going to leave it like that for the moment. And that's the beginning of the base layer. I'm going to come into my smart materials and I'm going to do a search for glass. And I don't remember if these are just default materials or if maybe I downloaded this glass film Dirty Mirror. It is available on place like Substance Share. So I'm going to drag that in. And I'm not looking for opacity or anything like that, and I don't have to switch to PBR with alpha blending. I just want this kind of effect. So I'm going to add a black mask because I don't want it on everything. And come over to my polygon fill, and I'll choose mesh, and I'm going to click here, and then I'm just going to come back and adjust this a little bit. So for example, on the glass layer, I don't need it quite that shiny. I'm just going to dull it out a little bit so it looks something like that. And that's the effect that I'm going to go for. You can of course change the color if you want. If you want it a little bit more green or blue or something, so I'll slide that up and just see, maybe we'll have it a little bit blue. Okay. Alright, so we've got that. So that's the base. This is, we'll just call this the glass. And now I'm going to click a fill and add a black mask. We'll add some dirt to this, so I'll just use color and roughness. Slide the roughness all the way up, and for the color, I'll go for a brownish color. Something like that. And click on the mask and the magic wand, add generator, and we'll try this generator just for dirt. And we'll get it on here as well, which is fine. And I do definitely want some dirt all over the thing, so we can always start with that. I'll call this dirt. And we'll probably do another one. We'll try metal edges. I don't think it'll work that well, but I think it'll possibly be okay. In fact, let's just do it this way. Let's just duplicate this layer and just, clear the mask. And I'll keep the same color, and I'll choose generator properties, metal edgeware, and we'll get that there, and I'll just bring it down. I think I'll turn on triplanar and just play with what you want. Just a little bit of dirt along the edges like that. Okay, so far so good. And this is metal edges, or just call it edges. I think it's about time to get the indents. So let's do that. I'm going to do it just on a paint layer. Properties. I'm going to use color and height. I'm going to drop this down to almost black. And height, we'll bring down, let's try about halfway and see how this is going to work for us. Okay, so I'm going to do circles. I'm going to choose a basic hard brush, and I'll switch over to orthographic and zoom in. And we'll just start laying down some of these sort of indents. You don't have to be perfectly centered, it's all right. So we have that. These ones are a little tight. Make this smaller. Okay. It's debatable if you want a sharper brush. If you did, let's just come over here for a moment and click on circle. It's possible that I should have done it that way. I could go back. I use this one here, and then in the properties, just slide the border width all the way up. Let's just have a look at that one. It gives me a sharper edge. Might give a better look. It doesn't matter that much. I'll stick with that though as I continue here. Okay, down to these ones. Okay, that gives me indents for all of those except for the square buttons. So let's see what we can do. Let's see. If we take square and I take that one, let's try this. Not bad. You can take all the time you want to do those. All right. I think those buttons are sticking out a bit much, so I think in Blender, I'll pull them back in a little bit. So I've got that. And let's save. That's starting to look good. Now I was thinking, those are going to be button knob indents. Let's see. I was thinking I'm going to create another paint layer. I should be able to use the same features. And I was thinking of grabbing this square round. I believe that this is all default in Substance Painter. I was thinking of this around here. We'll see what that ends up looking like. I don't want to do it actually, I don't think, with color, so I'm just going to alt-click on height. Let's just have a look at this and see if we like this. I think I kind of want that, but I do want a little bit of the dirt in there. And so that's why I did it on a separate layer. This is going to be the button surround, I'll call it. I want the dirt in there, and the dirt is down here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this below the dirt, and I'm going to add an anchor point. And the anchor point has to be below the layer that you want the effects from. So think of the anchor at like the bottom of the sea. So it's down here, and the dirt is above. With this anchor point now on button surround, I can come back to the dirt, to a generator. You have to use a generator as far as I know on anchors. Select the generator, go to the properties, scroll down, and then there's this little area here, micro details. Open that up, micro height, because I'm using alphas, not normals. All right, we do that another time. Turn on true, scroll to the very bottom, and again, micro height, click on that, and choose anchor points, and choose the anchor point you're talking about. Button surround. And then here, the reference channel changes from base color to height. And you will get the effects from the dirt layer going in. Now, keep in mind the dirt was pretty intense, so it's filled all that in, so it's almost as if we were back using the black, which is a way around it. You can play around with the levels, however, here, and you can, dial that back a little bit, all right, to your liking. That kind of looks a little deep anyhow, and this is a good reason not to use a paint layer, because you can't go back to the paint layer here, the button surround, and change it. You can do it again if you want, but I'm going to leave it like that though for the time being. All right, and I also may want some text in there, but we'll come back and do those kind of things later. Let's get on to, I think, the button stuff, the buttons and the knobs. So I'm going to switch over to this layer now, this texture, get rid of the base, and let's start doing that. Let's in smart materials, I think it is, I'm going to type metal. I've got one here. No, it's actually just regular materials. This iron shiny, which is probably pretty standard. I'm going to try that one, and you can decide which you like the best. I'm just looking at these in particular. Because everything else, the buttons won't have it, and these, only the bases are going to have that. So we can start with that, and you can tweak it if you want, but I'm okay with that, and I'm not going to do dirt yet. What I'm going to do next is add a black plastic for these things. So this one I think is in my smart materials. I'm going to search for plastic. This hard grainy, again, I think it comes with Substance Painter, but I'm using hard grainy plastic. If not, you could always try to download it. I'm just throwing that on, and I'm probably going to leave it like that, but I don't want it on everything, of course. There's only a few things I want it on. What I will do is, I think, I'll keep the noise on that one. I want it a little bit shinier, so I'm going to drop the roughness just a little bit. So yeah, we'll keep it like that. But I don't want it on everything, so I'm going to add a black mask, and I'm going to come over here to my polygon fill, come over here to mesh fill, and I'm going to select the things I want it on. I want black on that, and that, and that, and of course on all of these knobs. I do want it on the buttons, but we'll do more with the buttons in a bit. I want it there, and I want it on the toggle switch part, but I want the rest of it to be metal. So let's hit the brush, and then you can see what I've got. Now, keeping in mind, again, we did one big UV map, and I tried to maximize the size for these things as much as possible. I'm not going to zoom in so it's right in your face. Probably at the closest would be something like that. So I think it looks all right. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is put a little bit of detail on these, and that's why I added the seams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer, and you can name these if you want. I'm not going to bother, actually. I'm going to right-click and clear the mask. I just want the layer. But on here, I'm going to get rid of the noise, and I'm going to change the base color to white or off-white, like something like that. And come back, close that up. And I'll show you why I got rid of the noise in a minute. Yeah, on the black mask, and come over here, and go into polygon fill, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to choose this UV chunk fill and click there, and I can now get the nice circle in the middle of those. Let's have a look, and it looks like that. All right, why did I get rid of the noise? Let's see if it makes any difference. You know what, it doesn't look actually that bad, so I think maybe I will leave it. In some tests it was looking pretty granulated and I didn't like it, but it's not bad there, so all right. So go figure. All right, back to the polygon fill and the mesh, or the UV chunk. That we're going for, and the very tip of that, and that. It's very barely noticeable, but it might catch some light. You know, yeah, you can sort of see it. Keep in mind, we are still in orthographic view, so it may look a little odd. If I pop back out and we adjust the light, this is what we're getting so far. Okay, no dirt or grunge on these yet. If they do look a little funny, again, like this, you know, first of all, we're gonna up-res this to 2K, and that may help a little bit, but it's based on the UV map, how much space you gave them. And if you didn't give it a lot of space, see, just get rid of the noise, doesn't really matter in that case. Then that's what's going to happen. But you know, from here, it's going to look just fine. Come down to here, and I'm going to use a paint layer, so hopefully we're okay with that. And it's just going to be on height. I'm just going to drop it a little bit. Let's try just a hard brush. Zoom in, we'll look in orthographic, and we'll zoom in on one of these. And control and right mouse button. I just want a small area and hold down shift. And I just want to do that like I did before. Okay, and I'll just try to do them in different orientations. Just like that, good enough. So we now have our bolts in there. And now we are going to work on the buttons themselves. So I'll call this, call it bolt, whether screws, whatever, bolt indent. So we have a little bit. Okay, we'll call this black button knob, and this white button knob end. Okay, so what is left to do? Of course, we're going to have some dirt and smudges and stuff like that. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I'm going to come back to the base, and I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to add a fill layer. We're going to do those scratches. We really need those. I'm going to change this to color and height, and I like to do my scratches in black or in dark. Drop this down just a little bit, and I'm going to add a fill layer to that mask and reveal the grayscale. Scroll up to here, procedurals, type in scratch, take this last one here and drop it in, And that's quite extreme. It goes all over, which is okay, I guess. I'm just going to bring that down and just to have a couple of nicks out of it here and there. Again, we'll up-res this, and hopefully it will look all right. All right, I'm going to go with that. All right, well, let's do some work on these square buttons here. Let's duplicate this layer and bring it up. And clear the mask. And let's change this color to sort of an off-white, almost white. And let's go over to, let's try UV chunk, see how that works. And click on the surface here. And see how it's going. Yeah, and that filled in exactly the area I wanted. And you can see the noise in there, and that I'm okay with that. So I've got that. And we'll make some variations of this. So these are, you know, the square button. Okay, I'm going to call it that. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to clear the mask. And I'm going to come in, to the base. And I'm going to change the color to, you know, do whatever you want. I'll make this one a red one. And on the mask, I don't know, just choose a couple. Suppose I didn't have to do them all in white, so we'll get that. And you can decide if you want that noise or not, because it adds just a little bit extra noise. So maybe what I'll do is I'll get rid of that noise there. Okay, and then I'm going to duplicate that one more time. Clear the mask. And change the color to like a green color. Yeah, okay. Back on the mask, polygon fill, and choose, you know, a couple like that. So we have those. And I think I am going to add something else on here. So I'm going to create another paint layer, and I'm just going to use color this time. And I'll go for a whitish yellow color. Just like something like that. And let's get a square alpha. Zoom in. And I'm going to put a little square in the middle of all of these. That may not be the color I want, so we're going to try it like this. Hang on. All right, so we have that. Pretty noticeable. But I'll come to the layer, and I'm going to add a filter. Go into filters, and I'm going to choose blur. And I'm going to pull this up like this. Yeah, I think white is going to be a better choice for me. You might be able to see where we're going on this. All right. So because it's a paint layer, I can't really change that. So I'm going to back up, and I'm going to make this white. And I'm going to do that again. It's a little bit more of a gray color, but that's probably fine. All right. Filter. Blur. Put that up. There we go. That's the effect that I wanted. All right. Okay, cool. So I'm going to call this button shine. Let's see if we can get some dirt, fill layer, black mask, color and roughness, roughness up, color brown. See how it looks if we just use generator. A little bit of dirt on those buttons and screws. Let's go into perspective view. Let's maximize this. Let's turn on anti-aliasing and a color profile and play with the light. And this is what we're coming up with so far. So we're going to need some text and a few other effects on there. I think we'll leave it at that for the time being, and so we'll have something to come back to. A little bit of a design here and some text to fill in the spaces, and that will make it look really, really cool. All right, so hopefully that was useful and interesting, and if you're following along, you're getting what you want out of this modeling and texturing. Cool. All right, we'll see you next time.